I'm Nick Jones, back with you for the post-game show brought to you by Mr. C's Shakespeare class. You can check that out 9 a.m. on Fridays at aliasmrc.com. That's aliasmrc.com. A tough loss for the Pioneers today. Wanted to lead off with an apology about the stream. We had some complications and some technical difficulties, and it looks like most of the fourth quarter, if not all of it, completely gone. Lone Peak gets the win tonight over your Lehi Pioneers by a final score of 40-7. Fourth quarter, a pair of interceptions, one being returned for a touchdown, one returned inside the 5. Lone Peak converted on 4 plays later for a touchdown. That's what added to the score, changed the tenor of the game from there. So the final score, definitely not looking good. It's a tough one to take, especially for your first loss of the season, and coming to a bitter rival like this. Like I was talking about post or pregame, we were talking about how this is your big chance. This is your one real rivalry game of the season, and to lose that, it's definitely a tough blow. So the Pioneers fall to 2-1 on the season. Lone Peak up to 2-1 as well, kind of evens everything out. But for the Pioneers, the biggest thing is that is not to get caught up in this. There were definitely some positives and some things to take away. It's hard to say that when you get beat 40-7 in a game that was not very close coming down to the end. Really tough fourth quarter. Definitely very much the ball in Lone Peak's court. So plenty of things that they still need to work on, but there are some positives as well. The ones that I wanted to bring up, the biggest thing that I wanted to say just about this whole thing, the Pioneers came into this game kind of riding a high off of the first win, feeling like they escaped in the second one against Pine View, getting out of that one winning 21-14. The offense struggled in that game, and it struggled again in this game. That was very evident in the first half that they had kind of a very scripted game plan and were afraid to get away from that. The handoff up the middle on first down every time, even if it wasn't working, and then try to sling stuff to the outside. Later in the game, they rolled Cooper out of the pocket a lot more. The more he got to move, the more ability he had to use his feet. He had a huge run there in the third quarter on that touchdown drive, got them down to the 10-yard line, and it let him use his arms a little bit more, stretch the defense, gave him something to think about. The biggest problem for the Pioneers is that by that point they were already down far enough that they had to press a little bit too hard. And when you have to press that hard and you're trying to make back all of that ground all at once, it's where you get the final 4 drives that the Pioneers had, which ended in a turnover on downs from the 8-yard line on an incompleted pass. I think we caught that one. The next drive was a tipped ball that ended in a pick 6, and the one after that, swing pass to the outside, went to his right, got intercepted. Fortunately, the defensive back who made the interception got run down inside the 5-yard line. Lone Peak ends up getting the score on that one, and then brought it back up, and the game ended. So 40-7 doesn't feel good, and it doesn't look good at all, but there are definitely some positives to take away. Some things to work on. The Pioneers are going to need to figure out that offense. There was a stretch there in the third quarter where Lehi looked like they were really on top of it, that they had something going and that they found something, and it worked really well. Got the ball down the field, got the ball up the field. They were able to move and play around with the defense, pushing backs where they wanted them to be. It was the only time in the football game that Lehi looked like they were truly in control. Overall, in the third quarter, Lehi outscores Lone Peak 7-3. It's not a huge gap, but it still is a quarter that you won, and one that was still critical to the game. It wasn't over at that point by any stretch. And Lehi, once they had everything figured out, were able to go toe-to-toe with this Lone Peak Knights squad. And this is a 6A team. You went on the road in a rivalry game against a 6A team. Lehi, just a 4A team. there was some definite signs of progress and big things. Being able to go toe to toe and fight the way that they did, that's a big deal. Still, again, like I said, there's a lot to work on. You can't come out with the slow offensive starts that they've had the last 2 weeks and expect to continue to win games. It's what killed you in this one. You get down 23-0 at halftime, and you're going to have more offensive answers than simply being able to go toe-to-toe with the team. This was the first team Lehi has played, out of 3 teams. And the second one, really, Pineview, the only one where they really struggled defensively. But even so, against Pineview not able really to take advantage of the mistakes that Lehi made and the problems that they had, where Lone Peak was able to capitalize on those. They jumped on special teams errors to get short fields and pick up touchdowns that way. And then 2 turnovers late in the game to ice it. There were a lot of mistakes and plenty of things that Lehi needs to look to do better. But building the positives. Keep in mind what exactly you're looking for here and what's going to happen as you continue to move forward. So, tough loss to take tonight. The Lone Peak Knights, again, getting the win, 40-7. For Lehi, the world trucks on. Just keep going, and you got another game next week. Get some things right, and make that happen. So, as for next week, the Pioneers are going to be at home against Springville. Kickoff at 7 o'clock. That is on the 8th. So Friday as well. Everything's on Fridays. It's high school football after all. But for Lehi, that's a big bounce back game. You get into region and start to work from there. Lots of things to figure out, but plenty of positives from this non-region stretch. Those big wins at Alta, 72-66, still just one of the classics of the year. That's